Hello, fourth grade. Today in math, we're going to be learning about classifying angles as part of our geometry unit. The big question that we're going to try to answer at the end of this chapter is, how are different ideas about geometry connected? First, let's investigate the math and explore what mathematical terms can be used to classify angles. So when we're classifying angles, there can be three different types of angles that we could be talking about. First, we need to figure out what is an angle, what are those three different types of angles, and what is a degree. Here's a picture of an angle. The definition of an angle is when we have two endpoints that come together. So you can see from that black dot, those are those two endpoints that are coming together. Then if you see from the arrows, that's where they are leaving that endpoint, and that creates an angle. A degree is any time there's a type of turn within those two endpoints that start to move, kind of like a rotation. So in here, we're going to learn about what 120 degrees means. Because each time you make a small turn in that angle, it's a 1 degree angle. Have you ever just spun around in a complete circle and landed in the same spot? Some of you probably call it a 360. A 360 degrees, that means that you turned around and came back to the same spot that you're at. That's what 1 degree angle means. It's 1/360th of a turn. Here's a picture of an acute angle. An acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees, but more than 0 degrees. An easy way to remember these type of angles is when something is really, really small, we call that acute angle. Here's a picture of a right angle. The definition of a right angle is when an angle is 90 degrees. And usually when you see pictures of angles, the big clue that it's a right angle is you see the little square that's close to the endpoint. That'll tell you that that angle is 90 degrees. And our last angle that we're going to learn today, obtuse angle. An obtuse angle is an angle that is greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. A 180 degree angle is a straight line. So it has to be less than that straight line and also a little bit bigger than our right angle, which is 90 degrees. All right, let's keep on investigating. So here's a model. It says right here, classify the angle formed by the hour hand and the minute hand as acute, right, or obtuse. First off, let's start with 9 o'clock. So if I'm making 9 o'clock on the clock, let's start with my hour hand, which is a small hand. I'm going to have it point here. I'm going to start with my end point and have it point out to 9 o'clock. And then I have my minute hand that stretches out to the 12. And now we have 9 o'clock. So if I'm looking at this where it's pointing to 9 o'clock and then 12 o'clock, it makes a perfect little L. So I want to make this square that goes inside because it makes that L shape. It looks like a backwards L. And anytime it makes that L shape, that is going to tell us that that is going to be 90 degrees. When it makes the L shape, when it makes it 90 degrees, then that one is going to be called a right angle. All right, let's try with the next one. All right, the next time that it's going to tell me is 12:25. All right, so I'm going to move the hour hand, and I'm going to start with my endpoint, and I'm going to have it point towards the 12. And then I'm going to move my minute hand to the 25 minutes, which will be at the 5. So there I made 12:25. Now I need to figure out, is that a right angle, an acute angle, or an obtuse angle? If I look back at my pictures of what makes an obtuse angle, Remember, an obtuse angle is going to be greater than 90 degrees, so greater than that L-shaped, but it's going to be less than 180 degrees, which is a straight line. So if I'm looking at 1225, if I opened up this angle, I'm going to make this into, kind of fill in that angle to add in this circle. So that way it tells me which way the angle is opening up. So if I look at this, it's bigger than an L shape, but it's also bends a little bit, so it's not a straight line. So 1225 tells me that it's going to be an obtuse angle. Right, our third one, it's going to be 205. So I've put my hour hand and I have it point towards the 2. Then 05 is going to point towards that 1. So you can kind of see it. So already those two lines that meet at that endpoint are kind of small. It makes a less than that L shape. So if I look back at my vocabulary, I can pick between acute, right angle, or obtuse angle. If I look at this shape, it makes it smaller than the L, so that tells me that it's less than 90 degrees. And if I remember that term, if everything's something really, really small, I'm going to call that acute angle. So 205 is going to be acute. And it's an angle. You can find these key concept terms if you look in your math book on page 894. At the very top of 894, you can see Math in My World, key concept, types of angles. So let's review what we just did. So a right angle measures 90 degrees. It tells me right here, this symbol means right angle, that little square. An acute angle measures greater than 0 degrees and less than 90 degrees. Usually we have that little circle that comes in, so it tells me which way the angle is opening up. And if I look at this picture, it's nice and small, it's nice and tiny. We call that acute. So it's an acute angle. And then our third angle that we're going to learn about today is going to be an obtuse angle. So it measures greater than 90 degrees, so bigger than the L, but less than 180 degrees. If it was 180 degrees, remember, it would be a straight line. Be like a half a circle, way that the angle is opening up. So in this case, it's less than that straight line, but bigger than that 90 degrees. All right, so you're still on page 894. Let's look at example 2. It says classify the angle as right, acute, or obtuse. So in this problem, it's saying that the angle is 90 degrees. And it's also telling me it's making that little square inside the angle. So if I think back, if I think about my key concepts, if you're on page 894, and if you look at those key concept terms on the top, so right angle measures 90 degrees. Hey, the angle is 90 degrees, so it is a right angle. Reason why it's a right angle, makes that L shape, and it also is 90 degrees. And it told me that because it made that little square inside the angle. Right. Let's look at example 3. Classify the angle as right, acute, or obtuse. The angle is greater than 90 degrees. in less than 180 degrees. So if I'm looking at this angle, looking at the picture, so it's greater than 90 degrees, but it's less than 180 degrees. Okay. So it's telling me that it's less than 180 degrees too. So if I'm looking at my key concepts that are on top of page, if it's on top of page 894, so let's review back. A right angle measures 90 degrees. An acute angle measures greater than 0 degrees and less than 90 degrees. An obtuse angle measures greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. Hey, we just read our term. This told me that it's greater than 90 degrees and less than 180 degrees. So therefore, this has to be an obtuse angle. We'll do 2 more problems and you can do a few more problems on your own. So let's look at guided practice on the bottom of page 894. Number 1. It says the angle shown turns through 94 1-degree angles. Find the measure of an angle. So this here has a picture of a birdhouse. And it's telling me how it's opening up to 94 degrees of this 1 degree angle. So I talked about that term of what is a 1-degree angle. To show you a picture of what that's going to look like, here's a tool and it's called a protractor. A protractor is a great way to measure angles. So if I'm looking at this protractor and what it's telling me that I can do with this protractor, if I'm moving this, anytime I'm moving this and opening this, if you see this pink that's right here, I have my endpoint that shows right where it plans in the middle, and on the outside where that pencil is, that's where it's going to tell me when the angle starts. Each and every time I turn that little pencil above it, that tells you that it's making a 1-degree term. Each of these little tiny lines that you see on this protractor, that resembles 1 degree. So if I make this perfect L that comes right above here, that's going to be 90 degrees. You can kind of see the 90 that goes on top. If I go all the way to the other side, that's going to show me 180 degrees. And if you look at the shape, it makes half a circle. If I go all the way back to where I started, you notice that I made a perfect circle. And when we go all the way around with a circle, I just turned 360 degrees. So back to our problem. The angle shown turns through 94 1-degree angles. Find the measure of the angle. So this is telling me that it's greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. If you look back with the term, we have an obtuse angle because it measures greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. So the roof of my birdhouse, that's going to be an obtuse angle. Number 2, it says classify the angle shown as right, acute, or obtuse. So here I have this angle. So it doesn't make the perfect L. If it made a perfect L, whether it was backwards L or the right side L, it would be a right angle, measuring 90 degrees. So this one, it's not showing me that it's making an L. It's actually making it smaller. The previous problem with that birdhouse, we knew that that was an obtuse angle because it was greater than 90 degrees. So greater than that L shape and less than 180 degrees. So this tells me that this angle has to be an acute angle. And you're probably thinking, how do we know it's an acute angle? Because it is less than 90 degrees. Anything that's small or tiny, we think of it as an acute angle. All right, so with independent practice, what you are going to be doing is working on problems 3, 4, 5, and 6 independently. Think back of those key concepts. Please review the vocabulary. It will help you with this assignment.